Well, listen, I want to thank you all for allowing me to come here. It's the first time I've been in India, and it's really a great place and wonderful, wonderful people. So I'm going to take you on a 20-minute journey that typically takes me 10 hours to talk about everything that I do, but I've got it down to 20 minutes, hopefully. First, I want to start with an overview of aging. You know, in America, we don't die of old age. We die of heart disease, the number one killer in America, and the number one killer here in India, heart disease. Cancer is number 2 in America, stroke, lung disease, diabetes, and Alzheimer's disease. These are all preventable diseases. Obesity and lifestyle are the number one causes of the top killers of Americans. And I suspect the same thing is happening here in India. 70% of premature deaths are because of lifestyle, are lifestyle related. In America, we have an obesity epidemic that is out of control, completely out of control. You can see that back in 1990, we did not have very much obesity. We just had some, maybe 10% of some states. Look what's happened in 2009. The only state that seems to be setting the standard of 15 to 19% is Colorado. The rest of the states are in horrible shape. In America today, 2/3 of Americans are overweight or obese. American children, we think, will have a shorter lifespan than their parents. This is the first time in the history of mankind that this has ever happened. The number one cause of liver disease in America is not alcoholism, it's fatty liver. And insulin resistance is a direct consequence of obesity. Insulin resistance, which is what everyone needs to avoid. This was a wonderful documentary that you can get off of, you can go to Amazon and you can rent this for 24 hours. It's called Escape Fire. And Shannon Brownlee points out that in 2020, 7 years from now, 1/5 of America's healthcare spending, $1 trillion will be devoted to treating obesity. By 2022, this is Dean Ornish, who has championed a whole movement on how to prevent heart disease and reverse heart disease. In 9 years, 1/2 of all Americans will be pre-diabetic or diabetic. Cardiovascular disease and diabetes are linked to each other through obesity, insulin resistance, and inflammation. These are very key topics that you will hear more and more about. Inflammation. Inflammation is the root cause of accelerated aging and of all the age-related diseases. And it's pretty much a result of insulin resistance. Heart disease in America is projected to double over the next 50 years. Metabolic syndrome is present in up to 1/4 of the adult population. 47 million U.S. citizens have metabolic syndrome. Well, what is metabolic syndrome? It's also known as Syndrome X or insulin resistance syndrome. And it consists of a cluster of various things that put people into that category of having metabolic syndrome. And the features are, number 1, abdominal obesity. People that store their body fat inside and around their belly, which is where most of us store it. And this is different fat. It's different than the fat under your skin. It creates these hormones that put you at risk for all the age-related diseases, including insulin resistance. Dyslipidemia is another characteristic. That means bad cholesterol, high triglycerides, or low HDL. high blood pressure, and silent inflammation. These are the features of metabolic syndrome. Visceral fat is central fat. It's fat inside the abdomen, and it's associated with the greatest metabolic risk. 43% of Americans greater than age 60 have metabolic syndrome. We now have 30% of our children have metabolic syndrome, and 47 million US citizens have metabolic syndrome. 30% of our kids are developing metabolic syndrome. Individuals that have metabolic syndrome are 6 times more likely to have a cardiovascular event, either a heart attack or a stroke. 6 times more likely. In India today, you cannot let what we've done in America happen to you guys. Over the last 20 or 30 years, we have allowed our children to become obese. Our population has become obese, and I'm pleading for you to not let this happen here in India. As your nation continues to grow, you must prevent it. So what does it take to prevent or reverse the epidemic of obesity and type 2 diabetes and heart disease? It's not complicated. It's not rocket science. It just takes a few things that you need to focus on. The right kind of exercise, the right kind of nutrition, the right supplements, the right kind of vitamins and minerals, and correcting hormonal deficiencies. So I'm going to talk about each of these a little bit. Before I get into that, I want to talk about age management medicine, which is what I do. This is also called anti-aging medicine. And if you look at quality of life on the one and go across age, the typical curve that we all experience, I don't have a pointer, is that purple curve where as you age and you get up to about 40, 45, that's about when people really max out and feel great, and then it's a slow decline until you end up in a nursing home. The whole idea with age management medicine is to keep it at about age 40, 45, and keep it going until, like the seagull, you just drop. And this is done through the right kind of exercise, the right kind of nutrition, and making sure that you are not deficient in key hormones. Let's talk about exercise. Resistance training. There are 3 components of the exercise that are so important. Resistance training, cardiovascular training, and flexibility. Resistance training is what it says. It's moving an object against resistance. It's weightlifting, it's doing push-ups, it's using machines. I tried to find a gym here, around here. You don't have many gyms here. This is me lifting 100-pound dumbbells. When I started doing this, I couldn't even do 20-pound dumbbells. Next is cardiovascular training. Cardiovascular training is what is like riding a bicycle or running or going up steps. And you need to do, or playing racquetball or tennis ball or cricket. This is all cardiovascular training. And you need to do this 4 or 5 times a week for up to 20, 30 minutes. That's all you have to do. It can be walking. And if you do this and get your heart rate up and keep it there, then you're going to really preserve your blood vessels. I use an exercise bike. I watch videos and ride an exercise bike, and that's worked really well for me. But there are countless numbers of ways to perform cardio. The next is flexibility. As people age, we get more and more stiff, less flexible. And I have found over the last 3 years that the best way to combat this is through Pilates. And here I am with my Pilates instructor, and she is helping me do, these are called lunges on a reformer. This is the neatest, quickest way to become flexible. And this is stretching my hamstrings and my hip flexors When I started this, I could hardly even move it at all. As people age, they become more and more stiff, and it puts people at risk for a fall and fractures. Plus, it makes you look old when you get up and move around real stiff, and you feel old. You know, everything I do makes me feel young, and so it just feeds on itself. Here I'm doing some hamstring stretches with Shane, my Pilates instructor. Nutrition. Nutrition is another key component of this. You know, my motto is what I eat, what I put in my mouth can either hurt me or help me. It can either kill me or it's really going to help me. And I think everyone needs to think about everything they eat in terms of exactly that. This is a very important graph. The typical American diet, people get up in the morning and have bagels or cereal, and their blood sugar shoots right up. And that's the blue line. The blue line is going straight up. And then, as your blood sugar gets high, then your pancreas pours out insulin. That's the red line. And then the blood sugar comes crashing down in about 2 or 3 hours. So then you feel tired and sluggish, mentally depressed. And so you have to eat more sugar, carbs. And this is a continual cycle throughout the day. Fast food, donuts. And what happens is the insulin level stays up there, and that causes insulin resistance. When people have elevated insulin levels, they cannot burn their own body fat for energy. They have to keep fueling their energy source with high glycemic carbohydrates. So you need to eat low glycemic carbohydrates. Carbohydrates that don't jack your blood sugar up. And that is the absolute key. The way to do that is to eat 5 or 6 small meals a day, never skip a meal, eat protein and healthy fish or healthy fats with every meal, eat good carbs, which is fruit and vegetables, eliminate high glycemic carbs. You're not going to like this. Breads, potatoes, pastas, pretty much everything that I love, I have to really be careful of. You need to eat plenty of fiber. You got to drink lots and lots of water. If you can drink a little alcohol, but if you have a problem with alcohol, like a lot of people in America do, it's best to just avoid it. And you need to train intensely and consistently, and take vitamins and minerals. Okay, let's talk about the hormones. Everyone knows about menopause. Women for the last 30 years have led the curve on hormone replacement therapy. Women more so than men know exactly when they start to get a decline in their estrogen and progesterone. So we have replaced estrogen and progesterone over the last 20 or 30 years in America, I think here as well. There have been problems with that because some of the hormones that we've used come from horses, horse urine. So there have been a lot of issues with that. But now we're using bioidentical estrogen and progesterone, and it's made a lot of difference. The counter to menopause for men is andropause. Andropause doesn't happen abruptly. It's very, very insidious. It creeps into a man's life as their testosterone level slowly declines. And this takes weeks, months, years. And typically, a man doesn't really realize that something's different until he's about 5 years into andropause. And then he'll typically go to his family doctor, and he'll say, you know, doc, I'm just not like I used to be. I've lost my energy. My sexual function has declined. I just don't like to get out of bed in the morning. I just want to stay in bed. And the typical American doctor will say, well, you know, Joe, you're just getting old. Just suck it up. It's part of the aging process. So Joe walks out of the office feeling really depressed. And then he hears more about this testosterone thing. So he goes back and he says, you know, maybe my testosterone's low. So the doctor, in many cases reluctantly, will draw a testosterone level. Joe comes back and doctor reads the testosterone. He says, you know, your testosterone is normal. Well, what he doesn't tell him is that his testosterone is 300 and the range goes from 250 to 1200. So Joe does have a testosterone level in the normal range, but he's a D-minus student. Who wants to be a D-minus student in anything, especially when it comes to everything that's important, your quality of life and your aging? So that's when they come to see me. So andropause is a major, major problem for men. And I will talk more about exactly what andropause is all about when I talk to you about myself. So I'm going to take you on a journey toward my healthy age, through my healthy aging. This started 15 years ago when I was 59, and continues today. So back then, I looked like this. I had a big belly. I had metabolic syndrome. I was almost a type 2 diabetic. I had vascular disease. I had coronary artery disease that I didn't even know about. I was a poor example for my patients, a poor example for my kids, my adult kids. And so one day I came home and I had a girlfriend named Annie, and I told her about this contest that I found out about. And Annie said, you ought to do this. This was a Body for Life physique transformation contest. So I entered this contest and did nothing but eat right and train, and made this huge transformation. And at the age of 60, I won the contest. By the way, Annie is my wife now. We got married not long after that, after I got rid of all this fat. So that's where my journey started. Then 5 years later, when I was 64, 65, I started losing energy. Even though I was eating right, training right, I was just losing ground. That's when I found out I had low testosterone and low growth hormone. And that's when I became a Cenogenics patient. But before I get to that, let's talk about my quality of life. This is my before picture in the Body for Life contest. And I never dreamed I'd ever be showing anybody this. So I had tiredness, increased belly fat, lost muscle mass and strength, lost mental clarity, poor endurance, sexual function was declining. Lost my zest for life. Poor example for my kids. Type 2 diabetes, I already told you that. Undiagnosed heart disease, hypertension, stress. Then when I was 64, I became a Cenogenics patient. Thank you. Geez, that was worth a trip here. And this is how I looked at age 64. And this is a picture that Cenogenics has used in their marketing. And this was with exercise, eating right, and correcting my testosterone and growth hormone deficiencies. So then I entered my 70s. Now that's a picture of me. So I ended up having, every year I got better and better. It's just amazing. I had increased energy. I do weightlifting, Pilates, martial arts. Body fat was less than 10%. More muscle mass and strength than ever. Mental sharpness, great endurance. Let me talk a little bit about muscle mass. As people age, they lose muscle mass. This is called scopenia. This is a serious, serious problem. It's the #1 cause of people being admitted to nursing homes in America, men and women, because they've lost their muscle mass and they lose their strength and they can't carry on with their activities of daily living. And their kids say, you know, Dad, we just can't take care of you. So we're going to put you in this home just for a little while. And they're going to help build your strength up. That's the crash and burn. If you want to avoid going into a nursing home, you must not lose your muscle mass. You need to do everything you can to preserve muscle mass, and it's not that hard. You need to lift weights or do resistance training 3 times a week. My zest for life is back. Great example for my kids and now my grandkids, 11 of them. I found out I had heart disease. That is stopped and maybe reversing. Clearly no diabetes. Normal blood pressure, able to control stress and anxiety, able to fly here to India with virtually no sleep for I don't know how many hours, and get up here and feel really good. I mean, I'm amazed by myself sometimes. So this is how I looked at 72. This is 13 years on my life plan. And this is how I look today. 15 years. And the neat thing is that the better I look, the better I feel, and the healthier I am. It is an absolute win-win situation.
Nobody's going to believe you till you take off that jacket. Come on. And
I'm not taking both. I have another shirt under here.
you've got to take this one off.
My publicist said, do not strip down. This is India.
This is the land of the Kama Sutra. Oops. Do we hear some reactions? Come on. It's Mr. Muscle Man.
No, you just look at the picture. Next time I come, I'll strip right down to my bathing suit. So this is my story. And now we're going to open it up to questions. Oh, no, I'm not quite done. So our goal is for each and every one of us to die young at a very, very old age. And I believe as India reinvents democracy and grows, it must take the necessary steps to prevent the decline in the health of its people. Do not follow our lead on this. Don't make the same mistakes we made. And now we know there's enough technology out there, enough know-how, so you don't have to follow the same path we did. Your kids need to be active in school. You need to get gym programs into your school system. You need to get gyms around so you can start lifting weights and doing resistance training. And you need to promote bicycling and hiking. There you go.
Thank you, Dr. Life. But now that we've got you to take some of your clothes off, I want to get that question out of the way, that question, which is in the mind of every single man in this audience, and some women maybe. How much, how long, how many times? And before you ask me what, I run a magazine called Cosmopolitan.
I better stand up for this one. So the first part of that is...
How much?
How much? You mean, do I recommend or personally?
How much are you getting?
This is not what I expected when I came.
Land of Kama Sutra, we can't help it.
I think I promoted my book at least 3 times a week. 3 times a week. To maintain optimal health, men and women, 3 times a week. Okay? Second part of that is?
How long?
I don't know. I don't really get my stopwatch out. Long enough. For my wife and myself, long enough. And the third part?
Well, it was a repeat of the first one. How many times? You answered that already. So thank you very much. But I have a more serious question. Because you've got a lot of patients, right? People from all over the United States coming to see you, and you're bringing out these virile, young 70-year-olds. I want to ask you about the sociological impact of having 60 to 70-year-old virile, sexually active young men going for the hunt when their 50, 60-year-old wives thought they were over with all the affairs that their men were having. You need to do something for the women out here.
I do. I have 20 to 30% of my patients are women. And women that work out, women that eat right, women that make sure their estrogen and progesterone levels are good, live just as vibrant a life as men do. And in many cases, they're even more sexually active than their husbands that have great testosterone levels but just can't keep up with them. So the key for both men and women is eat right, exercise properly. Flexibility is hugely important. If you're stiff, then you're not going to be very good in bed. If you're really flexible, you can be really great in bed. So, and hormones are really important. And the other thing about men, as long as we're talking about erectile performance and all that, men, your penis is the first organ that takes a hit if you have vascular disease. So if you or friends of yours are experiencing erectile dysfunction, you know, the answer is not just going out and getting a pill. And the answer may not just be getting your testosterone level up. You need to really be evaluated for vascular disease because it precedes heart disease and cerebral disease by 3 to 5 years. Okay, so it's a red flag. If you have erectile dysfunction, it really means you need to see somebody and get worked up for vascular disease.
I read in your book, you mentioned that if men don't wake up excited every morning, that's the first indicator that they need help. Would you elaborate on that?
I didn't know we were going to get into this detail. Yes, that is a great indicator of adequate or inadequate testosterone levels. Early morning erections. You know, I ask my patients, when was the last time you had an early morning erection? And these guys just think, I can't even remember. Well, that's a clear sign that your testosterone's low. Spontaneous erections is another indicator that your testosterone levels are good. So if you have really good testosterone levels, you're going to wake up with early morning erections most of the time, and you're going to have spontaneous erections. And you're going to have lots of sexual thoughts.